Misko.
Here.
Trustee Mire.
Here.
Trustee Aggregate.
Here.
Here. Trustee Waukesha. Here. President Bannerstill.
Here. At this time, if everybody remove their caps and all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Led by Trustee Anson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So everybody's aware, typically it is the village administrator that is sitting to my right. This is our village attorney, Hector Delamora. Thank you everyone for being here. At this time, we have a wonderful moment and the swearing in of our new police chief, Torin Misko.
If you'd raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Torin Misko, do solemnly swear
that I will support and comply
that I will support and comply
with the Constitution of the United States of America,
with the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin,
the charter, laws, and ordinances of the village of Heartland,
the charter, laws, and village ordinances of the village of Heartland,
the rules and regulations of the Heartland Police Department,
the rules and regulations of the Heartland Police Department,
and the law enforcement code of ethics,
and the law enforcement code of ethics,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of my office as police chief
the duties of my office as police chief
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. President, I do have a few words if you would allow me to
Absolutely.
speak. Thank you. I'd actually like to start off by just thanking everyone for coming out here and supporting me. Without all your help, I wouldn't be here today, and I really do appreciate you all coming and showing your support. Well, it would be a very lengthy night if I went through the room and thanked each one of you individually and told a good story about how you've gotten me here today. I'll spare you all that. But there is a few people I do want to specifically recognize that helped me through my journey to get here as the Chief of Police of the Village of Heartland. First off, I'd like to thank the Police and Fire Commission. I saw some of the members in the crowd, and also the Village Board for allowing me this opportunity to serve as your police chief. I'd also like to thank Chief Rosh. I know I saw him somewhere. I think he's out in the hallway here. And Chief Bagan for their many years of dedicated service and leadership to the Heartland Police Department. They made this department the respected law enforcement agency it is today. And I'd also like to take a moment to really thank them for their time and support in my journey in becoming the next Chief of Police here. I'd also like to recognize Sheriff Severson and Inspector Gum for all the support they've given me in advancing my career. I know this was a long process, and it was just as hard on you guys as it was me working through this and finally getting here where we are today. So thank you for that. Deputy Chief Calera, I know he's here. I want to thank you for your patience. It's been a very long process. You've stepped up as the interim chief. You led the department. You filled in the role. You did 2 jobs for a long time, and I really want to thank you for that dedication and all that hard work. Thank you. And then finally, I'd like to thank my family, because without their support, I definitely would not be standing here today. And if I quickly could just introduce my family members that are here. My mother, Mary's here in the front. My father, Peter. My daughter, Taz, on my mom's lap there. My brother, Thor. My wife, Autumn, with my daughter, Lana. My niece, Mariah, taking photos. My grandma, Kay. My mother-in-law, Ellen. Keith, thanks for coming. My sister-in-law, Wendy, and my brother, Chaz. And also joined is my niece's boyfriend, Nate, so thanks for coming. So I came home this late last week, and I came home with an armful of new uniforms with my transition from the sheriff's office over to the Heartland Police Department. And later on that night, I started telling Autumn, I'm not sure what I want to really say. Kind of floated some ideas by her and was trying to think of what would be a good topic to discuss at an occasion like this. And Autumn remembered seeing that armful of uniform shirts I brought in, and she walked on over and looked at the uniform patch on my shoulder here, and she said, it's all right here. You got pride, integrity, and ethics right here on the shoulder patch for the Heartland Police Department. And that's exactly who you are, is what she told me. And as I started to think about it, I said, wow, she's absolutely right, which she often is. I am proud to be given this opportunity as the Chief of Police. I am proud of my experience and my accomplishments. I am proud to wear this uniform, be a part of the Heartland Police Department, and serve this community. Integrity and ethics really go hand in hand. Ethics sets that standard, while the integrity puts it into action even when it's hard to do, and there's easier routes to take. I think Sir Robert Peel really got it right in the early 1800s when he said, the police seek and preserve public favor, not by catering to public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolute impartial service to the law. And how relevant is that today with what we have going on? I make this commitment to all of you here. I will wear this patch with pride and serve this community with a high level of integrity and ethics that this community deserves out of their police department. Thank you again for all your support. And as the village president said earlier, after the swearing in here, we will be going down the hall, down a stairway into our community room, and everyone's welcome to join us for a reception with some refreshments. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks.
So anybody to go off of that, anybody that will leave a couple minute here so that people can exit if they want to go down to the gathering. This is a special moment. Don't anybody feel like you're, you can go now. You don't have to stay until the end. You guys go and get it started, and then we'll catch up with you when we get done with a little bit of business up here. For anybody that would like to go down there, anybody that wants to stay here for further business on the agenda, feel free. Chief, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, save me a piece of cake.
I will do that. How many pieces I need? All right, we got you covered.
I forgot about Ross.
You offered cake, of course they're gonna be. You offered cake, of course they're gonna be.
Cake, listen
Should
to
have brought
us,
cookies.
right? That's not fair. Cake, listen to us.
I think.
Well, and the older we
Cake
get,
always wins.
Yeah.
have you ever gone to like a doctor, you think they're like 12?
When they showed up at the door and delivered my little nachos. She goes, they look like babies.
My biggest problem is I run into people. I went to school with your dad. I say, no, you didn't. That was my grandpa.
Oh, man.
If I'm-
Darlene, we don't get the e-packets. I don't get the e-packet anymore.
Thank you,
so I
sir.
get the paper one.
Thanks, Ben.
Is that right?
Didn't even think of it.
I'm looking at the village board revised. There's no attachments.
There wasn't a revised last week, I don't think. It
It says on
last
August
Wednesday.
13th, but I didn't get one for this week.
You should. I have an email list that goes
You
out
did,
together.
you got it on Wednesday.
What?
You
Well, I
got it
got
on
mine.
Wednesday.
I just opened it and there's nothing there. Okay.
You didn't miss anything.
I didn't miss anything? Okay.
Just that you were gone. And
Okay.
And just like that, there's enough seating.
Oh, I didn't scroll up far enough, sorry.
I think there should be enough chairs, I hope. Otherwise, you can always grab these if anybody needs them.
And I also got the info pack. No, it's, oh, there it is.
All right.
out in direct traffic.
So, well, that was nice. So now we'll move on to our next section here, which is public comments. If anybody has public comments for items that are not on the agenda, Obviously, as I say each time, if it's on the agenda, you can speak at the time that it comes up. But if anybody has items they would like to speak to that are not on the agenda and address the board, feel free to step towards the podium at this time. Seeing as there are none, we have a consideration of a motion to approve the village board minutes as of the September 10th meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion for the vouchers for payments in the amount of $278,749.43.
I move we pay the bills for 278, 749, 43.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the bills as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That
Abstain.
motion is carried. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask for discussion. Anybody need any discussion? Okay. The next item on the agenda, we have consideration of actions related to licenses and permits. Those are for bartenders licenses, and they expire June 30th, 2020. That is for Anthony Maslovac, Alex Thomas, Janine Kirkweir, David Merklin Jr., Melissa Olson, Joan Rose Bowl, and Sean Prescott. The interim police chief and the village clerk reviewed the license applications listed, and they have successfully completed the responsible beverage servers course.
I make a motion to approve the bartenders as listed.
Second.
License.
It has been moved and seconded to approve those licenses. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is a consideration of the first reading of a bill for an ordinance number 092418-01, an ordinance creating 66-12 of the Village of Heartland Code of Ordinances, establishing a moratorium while it enacts an ordinance regulating residency and presence restrictions for sex offenders. At this time, though it be out of the norm due to the severity and of the issue, or I should say the weight of the issue and the public involvement and people's wanting to know, I am going to actually read the majority of this ordinance to you so all of those here and viewing can see exactly what we're doing here. So, the village board of the Village of Heartland, mind you, this still has to be voted on. This is what we would vote on if it was enacted. I should read it before I get a second, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The Village of Heartland do ordain as follows. Section 166-12 of the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Heartland is hereby created as follows. 1. Finding an intent. Whereas the village board defines a designated offender to mean a person who has been convicted of or has been found delinquent of or has been found not guilty by reason of disease or mental defect of a sexually violent offense and or a crime against children, which includes crimes placing children at risk, defined and described within footnote 1, and all offenses where a court has made determination of under Wisconsin State Statute 973.048, 1M, that the underlying conduct was sexually motivated as defined in State Statute 980.01, Section 5, and that it would be in the interest of public protection to have the person report under State Statute 301.45 or where there has been a conviction under one of the following offenses. If you want to see those following, that you can dig deeper for. It is in the ordinance if you want to go and read it. Whereas the village board has recently learned that there are currently 35 individuals who reside in the village who reasonably meet the definition of a designated offender. And whereas the village board has concluded that the number of designated offenders residing within the village unreasonably exceeds the number of designated offenders residing within other communities in Waukesha County, as demonstrated by the data contained in footnote 2. Also can be seen if someone wants to look further, it is in the ordinance. Whereas the village board has concluded that the Wisconsin Department of Corrections has facilitated the placement of such a high number of designated offenders within the village because of the absence of any village ordinance regulating the residence or presence of designated offenders near identified child safety zones as described in footnote 3. Heartland saturation level of offenders is 6.75 times higher than the balance of Waukesha County. The saturation level is determined by adding the number of designated offenders per square mile in Heartland plus the number of designated offenders per 1,000 population in Heartland and dividing the resulting figure by the sum of the number of designated offenders per square mile in Waukesha County, net of Heartland, plus the number of designated offenders per 1,000 population in Waukesha County, net of Heartland. Mathematically, the saturation level for Heartland would be expressed as follows. You can go and see that equation listed on page 2 of the ordinance. Child safety zones can include but are not limited to a public school as defined in Wisconsin statute. That is footnote 3. I'm going to move on from that. Each of these details you can feel free to go and look into the ordinance. Whereas the village board has been informed that the existence of a focused practice involving vigorous community policing whereby the Heartland Police Department has regularly tracked the presence of designated offenders residing in the village and regularly interacted with them to remind them that their presence is known to law enforcement, and regularly interacted with them to remind them that is known to law enforcement with the goal of deterring recidivism and encouraging the concealment of the residency of designated offenders in the village. And whereas the village board has now concluded that an ordinance regulating the residency and imposing presence restrictions for now designated offenders is now warranted, and whereas the village board realizes that the formulation of a reason and defensible ordinance in light of current legal challenges in such ordinances will take a reasonable amount of time. Reiterating there, creating a follow-up ordinance to this, outside of just a moratorium, will take a reasonable amount of time. I just want to make sure that's very clear. 2, incorporation of finding and intent. The finding and intent section, as well as all of the footnotes of this ordinance, are fully incorporated and made a part of this ordinance. 3, moratorium. The village hereby declares a moratorium prohibiting the establishment of a temporary or permanent residence by a designated offender within the village until such time as the saturation level for designated offenders in the village of Heartland reaches a factor of 1.1 or lower, where the saturation level is determined by adding the number of designated offenders per square mile in Heartland plus the number of designated offenders per 1,000 population in Heartland and dividing the resulting figure by the sum of the number of designated offender per square mile in Waukesha County, net of Heartland, plus the number of designated offenders per square mile in Waukesha County, net of Heartland, plus the number of designated offenders per 1,000 population in Waukesha County, net of Heartland. I'm sorry if I just accidentally read that twice. Four, draft ordinance under consideration. By way of illustration only, a draft of a potential ordinance is appended as Exhibit A to the ordinance, which can go on and be read and looked over in the packet on the village website. But Exhibit A, and the village board invites written comments regarding same and will consider commissioning a study that will inform the drafting of a potential ordinance. 5, appeal. Any individual may appeal to the village board the interpretation of our application of the moratorium under this ordinance. Section 2, if any section, sentence, clause, phrase, or portion of this ordinance is for any reason held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision, and such holding shall not affect the validity of the remainder of such ordinance. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force from and after its passage and publication. That's what we have before us in that ordinance. At this time, I would entertain a...
Second to the motion.
I would... Am I making the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I would like,
Wait.
Suspend the rules.
first a second. I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and approve ordinance 66-12 at the meeting tonight.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules. May I have a roll? I don't even need discussion on that. May I have a roll call on the suspension of the rules?
Trustee Anson?
Yes.
Trustee Doral.
Yes.
Trustee Mire.
Yes.
Trustee Landwehr.
Yes.
Trustee Swenson.
Aye.
Trustee Walshiger.
Yes.
President Vanderstel.
Yes, we are acting under suspended rules. What the suspension of the rules has done is opened up typically,
I'll make a motion.
Now you gotta
Okay,
make a
sure.
I'll
motion.
make a
Yep.
motion that we approve ordinance creating 66-12 for the
Second.
Village of Hartland.
it's been moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance before us. 66-12. Any discussion? Anybody that has anything they need to say can do it at this time.
Probably had to
Well, since I made the motion, I'll make a discussion too. This is a, right now to stop what's going on, just to stop it until we can go further in depth and write it, more specifically. But this right now is the best line in the sand for us to do. And hopefully it'll get us going in the right direction in the future. So this is our first step, and appreciate your comments and your help on us coming up with something so important.
Can you step to the podium, please?
I'm Mary Walker, and I just have a question. You mentioned in reading of this ordinance that you would do it under a reasonable amount of time. Can you give us any parameters on that amount of time at all?
I think it's going to take some time to come up. Right now, what we're voting on is the moratorium. We are including, saying we're going to come up with something reasonable because there's no way that the moratorium could stay in effect and be defensible legally indefinitely. Though we may hope that that could happen, that doesn't, we have to be able to defend it. So what we want to do is get an ordinance right, and as you've heard me and other board members say at other meetings, instead of waiting and taking so much time until we had a perfect ordinance 6 months from now, we're trying to do something now because the community has spoken. I do not know the exact answer on that. I believe that we would like to do studies and try to come up with what's best for the public safety and the best for the public health in Heartland, and that may take some time due to our high saturation levels. What we're proposing here, the moratorium, is in effect until we create that.
Maybe explain what that is.
What?
The moratorium, maybe they don't get that we're doing it.
Oh,
But what it
do
means.
you know what we're doing with the moratorium?
I understand a little bit.
The moratorium means they can't place anyone here until we create that ordinance.
You gotta
Will
make,
this ordinance be able to be viewed on your website before it's voted on?
This ordinance is on the website and has been since the agenda came out, and absolutely, yes, it is. You could also request it from the village at any time, and absolutely you could.
But you said before we vote on, we're gonna vote on it tonight with the motion. Okay.
Yeah, the intent is to vote on it tonight.
we voted on it.
Huh?
We voted on it.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. We're in discussion. No, we didn't. Any other discussion or anybody from the public?
We suspended the rules. Yeah, and then we voted on the ordinance after.
I have something I'd like to say. This was a large issue, and I just want to say how proud I am of the community, and how proud I am of this board, and what they've done. I think they've proven that they listen. I think I've proven that I listen. I think I've proven myself that people do make mistakes. Sometimes we don't see things. The best thing to do is to jump out there and say, I made a mistake, and we'll correct it. And I think everybody on this board worked very hard to make this happen. I think everybody's on the same page. I can't guarantee that. We'll find that out in a minute. I'm proud of this community and all the work that's been done. We're doing the right thing here. I think some eyes were opened. Our saturation levels are so different. It's like Lake Michigan compared to the Pacific Ocean when it comes to the difference in volume with our surrounding communities. So maybe that's a bad analogy, but it
Well, it takes time, you gotta make it legal, basically, otherwise you're gonna get in all kinds of hot water, so this moratorium should be taken care of until we get the ordinance.
we moved quick. I wanted us to move quick. I think everybody on this board wanted us to move quick, and everybody jumped to action. So I think that this is I have not been more proud to sit in this chair, and I have not been more proud of this community than what happened with this. This is truly working together. The people speaking, the board acting, each one of us as individuals putting in their 2 cents, working hard to get something done. The lack of this is a serious issue because we all have someone, maybe not all, but I'm guessing most people have someone that's been affected. And protecting children and protecting this village is obviously our utmost priority. And I think that this is part of a step, and I think that the board, they can see it for themselves, but I think the board agrees with that. So if anybody else has anything that they want to say to
I
it.
think if they wanted a paper copy of it, that people that don't have it on the internet could come up to the clerk's office and get
That's
a
what I
copy.
just said, yeah, they
Yeah.
can come to the village and they can get
So
it.
then you got a paper one,
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say, besides the ordinance, which is very important, I also want to make sure that part of when I was running is to make things more open and the community more aware of everything. And I was surprised that we only get notification if it's a very serious offender. And personally, I don't care what level they are, I think we should be notified as a community that someone is coming into the community. Although that is on hold right now, I just couldn't believe that that's the only time we hear about it, that it's that. So I just want to see a lot of things change.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I agree with Don on that too. I don't think it's a matter of severity, whether it's a first degree, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. It should be brought to everybody's attention the minute that the Department of Corrections even thinks about placing anybody here. It's just way too important. It needs to be kept in the open, and hopefully from this point forward, we're gonna do that.
Anyone else? Anybody from the public have anything that they'd like to address to the board before we call this?
First of all, Peter Walker. Yeah, sorry, sick of hearing me talk.
Address.
But
Address. Address.
oh, so address 10 Avenue in Heartland.
Not that we didn't know.
Thank you for what you guys have done. You guys have done in, or hopefully will do shortly in 45 days, what hasn't been done in decades here in Heartland. So I appreciate it. I know this took a lot of hard work to get here. And I just wanted to say a couple things about, I read the supplemental e-packet that goes with the proposed ordinance, and I wanted to point out one thing. One sentence kind of caught my attention. It said, as the village moves through the drafting process, it will likely be appropriate to consider input from the Department of Corrections and other agencies, comma, various entities interested in sex offenders and the public. So I understand you guys deciding you want to talk to the Department of Corrections since there are some legal issues at play with what they can and can't do and how our ordinances will take effect. The public is here to speak on this, and they have for weeks now, and including the 1,000 people, now over 1,000 people have signed the petition. Maybe I'm reading into this, but, and I know this was written by our village administrator, but I have serious problems, and I think it's a preposterous suggestion to say that we should solicit input from, quote, various entities interested in sex offenders. I don't know why we would invite any outside third parties who are not here. If they cared enough about Heartland, they would be here or would have spoken already. So I think that's an outrageous suggestion by whoever published this packet, that we should invite them to the table here in Heartland. And I hope that we choose not to do that, and I hope we don't choose to invite them to make Heartland their next major battleground in this national agenda or whatever special interest they have. That said, thank you for what you guys have done. I know this wasn't easy getting here. I really appreciate the time you guys have taken. Mr. President, all the extra hours you've put in, and probably gotten a whole lot of emails from people who are concerned about this, and look forward to seeing what you guys come up with in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else before we call this? Anyone else on the board? May I have a roll call on the adoption of this ordinance?
Trustee Anson?
Aye.
Trustee Doral?
Yes.
Trustee Myers?
Yes.
Trustee Landwehr?
Aye.
Trustee Swenson?
Aye.
Trustee Walshiger?
Aye.
President Vanderstone?
Yes. That passes. And at this time, I'm going to sign this so that you can all see. Oh, wrong version. That's just a copy. So while I'm signing this, I'm going to tell you how this really works. Now, two things have just been done, and I congratulate, or I should say I commend this board on it. Number one, the suspension of the rules made it possible for this to be done. Typically, there's supposed to be 3 readings. This entire board just felt it was that important to get this done, so I commend every single one of us, and it shows the unification up here and doing something right and taking care of this community. Also, this will be signed tomorrow, and it will be attested by the village clerk. This will be sent to the paper. The paper will publish it probably Friday. Once this is published, it's law. Just, I want to make sure everybody it knows, because it is a big issue and you deserve to have the information. It would be our dedicated paper is Waukesha County Freeman. That's the official paper of Heartland. So it'll be put in the Waukesha County Freeman, yeah. So that will be sent over tomorrow, and the second it hits that paper, then it's done. So we've done it. Thank you guys for all your hard work and for coming and loading up the, filling the seats. No, we've done a good thing. This entire board has. Do we need to do anything to come out of that suspension of rules? Or do you just move forward? Okay. Sorry, we don't run into those very often. So with that, we move on to our next item on the agenda, which is a consideration of a motion to partner with Waukesha County Land Conservancy and the Ice Age Trail Alliance in an urban forestry grant for the purpose of supporting restoration efforts in the Heartland Marsh. Did anybody read on it?
Okay.
I'm wondering if anybody has any questions on that. So what would happen with this is that I believe, is Cheryl White here? Oh, yeah, please come and speak, please. For a second, I thought maybe you weren't here. I'm like, oh, no. Please come and speak. If I could just give a couple brief before you go. This is regarding a grant request, and we do have funds from our ECOS budget. We have $10,000 that are in that budget, and these are the type of things, environmental corridor and open spaces. These are the type of things that these are to be for, that these funds should be for in protecting and taking care of, our open spaces. So I just wanted to give a heads up in case anybody hadn't read it. I'm sure all of you have, but go ahead and take it away. Thank you.
I do have some things
Sure.
that if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely.
So, Hartland Marsh, of course, is just a beautiful place. I think the community, hopefully I have enough.
Thank you.
Why don't you pants up to that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So I'll just introduce myself too, that I'm the Executive Director for the Waukesha County Land Conservancy. For those who may not know the Land Conservancy, we're a nonprofit conservation organization that has protected 2,900 acres in Waukesha County. Our focus is on environmentally significant land and water. And so Heartland Marsh is one of those properties that fits both those criteria in terms of both land and water is environmentally significant. We're going to submit a urban forestry grant that'll be in the range of $15,000 to $20,000, and it is all primarily focused all on the marsh. In addition, it is going to help us to build our volunteer corps and really act to have kind of engaging the community and caring for the marsh, some education and outreach and so forth. The Adopt a Site brochure, that is the one element there, kind of talks about some of the things that we want to do at the marsh. Most recently, we have started to do restoration. We have a combined land stewardship plan that we put together with Ice Age Trail, the village, and ourselves, so that we are really looking at the marsh as the entire marsh and not just our portion of the property. Just this last week, we started to do some restoration near the Cottonwood Wayside area, where we did forest mowing to actually open up the understory for the oak ecosystems. I don't know if people recognize that oak ecosystems are considered globally imperiled and are some of the rarer plant communities on Earth. And I think anybody that has been in the marsh realizes that there are some just fantastic old oak trees that we want that woods to really thrive. Oaks are really considered a keystone species because they serve as the food and habitat for over 500 insects, wildlife, and so forth. So when the oaks actually die, that whole ecosystem and all the animals that depend on it also go. So this is a top priority for the organization. We've got a number of these oak ecosystems throughout our portfolio of properties, but Heartland Marsh is one of those that we are investing because it's such an important property, as well as the Bark River. So primarily the grant will help with the restoration, education outreach, and trying to build a vibrant community around the marsh.
So, could you tell us a little bit more about the grant? This is a partnership request.
Correct.
Okay.
So the grant would be set at $15,000 to $20,000. We're asking that, partners come with a portion of money, and we're looking for $2,000. And then you are starting that committee that is really focused on the environmental corridors, and the time and volunteer time can be also used as match for the grant. So when you get a grant, you need to have $15,000 that you get. You need to match it with $15,000 of volunteer services, or in-kind donations or funds from other organizations to be able to secure the grant. And so we're asking for $2,000 from the village to help with that.
Right. We do have, well, thank you.
Yep.
If someone takes it up, we'll talk about it.
Yes?
We don't have a motion yet.
Oh, I motion that we grant the $2,000.
Second, it. You need a motion.
It's been moved and seconded to grant the amount. Do you have an amount on the motion? $2,000. Okay, so the $2,000. So what we, you can speak first. You made the motion.
Oh, go ahead.
With that $2,000, thank you. The $2,000, we do have funds set aside for our, as I explained, our environmental corridor and open spaces. I don't think that there's a better way to utilize this, especially in partnering with an organization like this. In my opinion, they have much more organization. As you just alluded to, we're still trying to fill our committee. They're already up and running, so I think that it's a good partnership to get into. That money is already, those funds are already set aside. But if that's something that the board felt would be a good idea, this partnership could be a good thing, and maybe something we can even build and grow on.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor of the $2,000 partnership grant? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, boy. We'll get to the cake, Dick. All right. Next item on the agenda, we have the items that were referred from the September 17th Plan Commission meeting. Consideration, the first one we have is a consideration of a motion to approve a revised design for painting of the 3 water towers. If we have anybody, do we have anybody here that would like to come and speak to this? No? Yes? No? Well, no, if he doesn't have to, if he doesn't want to, it's.
The planning commission approved all this, but basically, I'm Tom Brass, resident, or property owner at 151 East Capitol Drive.
And bid president.
Pardon? Anyway, the Village of Heartland had been working with a contractor to paint the 3 water towers located within the Village of Heartland, which is done every 10 years. The bid came forward and said, and approached the village and said, well, here we have an opportunity to do something with these water towers that'll be out there for the next 10 years. We should put something out there that opens people's mind. I mean, all it ever said in the past was, here's Heartland. So we spent some money with a local marketing firm, came up with several plans. The first of which would have cost us $40,000, and the bid was willing to pay the extra money within reason. And the first one we came along with, which was, we looked around the country, and it was amazing at what communities have done with water towers. It's really amazing what they can do with graphics and everything else. And we came up with a beautiful graphics and all that, but it was $40,000, and the bid was no way we could afford that. So we came back, worked with the Village of Heartland, with the Planning Commission, and basically we've come down to now with a couple of things that the Heartland was concerned about was the white towers we had right now over a period of years, the rust collects on the bottom of the tower, so they wanted the darker color going up. And we worked with them and we came up with exploreheartland.com. Exploreheartland.com is a URL that we have purchased for the bid, but we haven't designed it yet. And what it will be is a landing spot for people who happen to be traveling around Heartland will look up at that and say, exploreheartland.com. What is that? Hopefully they're going to go type in exploreheartland.com, and what they're going to come to is a landing spot which will have the Village of Heartland's, link. You'll have the Chamber of Commerce, and you'll have the bid district's link. And between the three of those, you are going to get a very good taste of what's going on in the Village of Heartland. So basically, that's what this is all about. It's not going to cost any additional money for the painters, so it's a win-win for everybody. And as was published in the paper here the other day, I made comments to the Waukesha Freeman. City of Delafield has I-94, the 83 corridor, the Highway C. Oconomowoc has Highway 16 driving right into downtown. Village of Heartland is 2.5, 3 blocks away from Highway 16, but a lot of people driving that corridor on I-94, and especially on 16, don't realize what the Village of Heartland has to offer 3 blocks south of 16. And hopefully they're going to look up at this sign and just Google in one day and say, hey, look what they've got going here. So the bottom line is it's not going to cost any extra, and I'm glad to see that we're taking objects as large as this and utilizing them for the benefit of Heartland. Yes, Kim?
On that exploreheartland.com, will there also be information for people regarding nonprofits such as, or like the Rotary, the Lions Club, things that are going on with those entities?
Good question. Right now, we're working with 1, possibly 2, maybe 3 developers. To develop the website, because there is no page right now.
Yeah, okay.
And we're going to pay for the development of that.
Okay.
As that goes on, we'll concur with the village, we'll concur with the chamber and whatever, but it's a very good question to bring up. It's going to be a landing site, and you're right. Do we put the Rotary, do we put the Lions Club? Do we put all that
They
there?
do a lot of things, they do a lot of work in
Right.
town.
Yep.
And I think, and there's a lot of events going on.
Yep.
And like Oktoberfest, if somebody has something going on, that they could put that there too, because
Give you a list of
Isn't
I'm
this
guessing, I'm sorry.
Isn't this what Dave said is the way it's going to be now with this on? That's the undertaking I had.
Well, I think what Tom is saying is there's 3 that are for sure going to be on there, and it will be a work in progress, at least to the best of my knowledge, where it will be, people will talk, and the Ice Age Trail might go to the people that are running it, which is right now the bid has stood up to
What I'm
maintain.
saying, are you going to keep it up? Did we make a decision on painting it this way, or are we going to wait until?
No, that's what we're voting on.
I
this
thought
design.
that was what it was before, which Dave said last board meeting that we had. That's the way it was going to be. Okay, no, that's fine.
No, it went back to the planning commission
Yeah.
because the original one at the last board meeting had Explore Heartland above the large Heartland,
Okay.
and then it said Explore, and they came back and there was comments made there was too much Explore, all that. So we came back and we did that Heartland, as it's always been, Heartland's out there, and then we brought the exploreheartland.com.
So this is what we want.
This is what you're gonna vote on tonight
Yeah.
to accept this. Now, it comes to the developing of the website, we'll work with the village. You gotta remember, the bid is part of, we are an entity of the village. I mean,
Right,
we are,
absolutely.
our money comes from the property taxpayers of the Business Improvement District. So we're not gonna do anything without your approval. But to Ann's question, this will be an ongoing, we're gonna have a webpage that we can design and redo over the years. But we got 10 years up here of explore.heartland.com.
No,
We can do a lot of things with this over the next 10
Right.
years.
No, and I agree with that. I was just wondering what we're approving tonight, or we're going to add something on later on or something, because.
This is,
We're just
once
doing
this
the
is
painting.
approved, this is up there for 10 years.
The design.
Well,
Okay.
Good idea, Tom.
I know we're just talking about the golf ball on top of the tee here, but exploreheartland.com. Why in the heck do we want to segment our village website by having another website? If I want to find out about Heartland, I'm going to go to the Village of Heartland website, and you see we spent all that money now redesigning that. The Chamber's got their website for them. Now, this is Explore Heartland. Why wouldn't we put that on the village website and not spend the extra money and just expand that? Because when somebody's looking about Heartland, they want Heartland. I know we're talking about a water tower now, but I just don't understand why we have to redevelop a website for Explore Heartland when the village just got a great big new website that's really been cool. And
What you're not understanding, Mike, is we're gonna incorporate in one URL, we'll be able to incorporate multiple websites at one place. And you drive around, you see kids are going down, they're gonna look up at this thing and go, oh, exploreheartland.com, what's that all about?
Village of Heartland.
Now, right, but they're gonna go on there and there'll be a Village of Heartland, and they can click on that, and then you're gonna take you to the website for Village of Heartland. Right now, what
Well, we're
advertising?
not really talking that right now.
Right.
That was just a point. We're just painting it now, so.
Well, let
But
me
I
ask you
just
this, what
concerned.
advertising is there out there right now for somebody to go to the Village of Heartland website, other than somebody just thinking about it, well, I'm gonna Google it in? Is there, we tried a year
many
ago
se-
to look
how
at
many
a billboard possibility. Hector, we talked about that, and we were looking to try to bring a billboard out here, and Hector was, we said, you know what, the problem is, once we do that, we can't make it the sole billboard in Heartland, and Heartland has no billboards. This is an opportunity to advertise for everybody to get all, the Village of Heartland, the bid, the Chamber of Commerce, possibly the Rotary, possibly the Lions Club, whatever the Village of Heartland thinks will benefit people when they go to this website. This is advertising out there, that's what it is, and we have nothing out there right now.
Have you seen the new website design
There is no website
Haven't done
yet.
it
for
yet.
Heartland? No, I
We
mean the
own-
Village of Heartland.
Oh, for Heartland's?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been
When
to
you
it.
go and you say, go in a community, look at a school, it goes down, you pick out what school, it segues to the school computer.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the business, what business you want,
Right.
we go, I don't know, I just,
I
Well,
think
wait a
this is
minute.
very clean.
What I don't understand,
we're
Mike,
not we're talking about the website.
first of
I
all,
got
there's
off
no
track.
additional cost here.
It's okay, I'm gonna throw
It's a-
something in here, because it's important, and Mike, you may not have realized this, or maybe you do. One of the things that I've been trying to do, the reason that I like this, is because it's going to be maintained. That's my biggest deal here. And the village website isn't actually, correct me if I'm really wrong, it's not maintained on like a daily basis. It pulls the information from when it's put on.
Yes, it is.
It
Every-
is?
Updated all the
No,
time.
it is maintained, and that's.
Okay.
This, as far as maintenance wise, the Village Heartland maintains their website. Chamber, I'm sure, does a pretty good job of that.
Yes.
All we're doing with this is bringing everybody into one
Right,
website
okay.
that'll say, you wanna know about the chamber, you wanna click on this, between the chamber, between the village, between the bid, you're gonna be able to hit one spot that's gonna tell you everything that's going on if you click on that. Right now, somebody's gotta decide, well, Village of Heartland, what's going on there?
And then you go and click on it. when it's in
Right,
the
but
bid
what about,
district.
what
I
about the
wanna see
chamber? Is the chamber on the village
It
site?
is on the village
Yes.
site.
It's
but
not
you
easy to
have
find though, is
No,
it?
it's not. You're
But
on
Not
the
easy to
website.
find.
It's also my understanding, from the plan commission, and it was one of my concerns, is once you set this up, you've got to maintain this thing, because you can't have it just be a dead site.
Yeah.
It has to be updated continually, and as I understand it, the bid is going to be in charge of it, and if there should be a major change in people at the bid, or the bid
Well, if
goes
the bid
away,
goes out, it is
then-
owned by the Village of Heartland.
Right.
then it comes to us, but.
And that's
in the
but
paperwork.
Prior to that, with it right now, it's gonna be in your lap.
Yeah, there's really not a lot to maintain.
I was gonna say that, that's,
It's
it's
a
gonna
link
have
to
the
the,
link,
it's a
so-
link to the, all
It's
the
a-
other important websites that are available here in Heartland.
But again.
Now, are we gonna start advertising? No, we're not advertising, we're just gonna deal with the Village of Heartland initially, Village of Heartland, the bid, and Chamber of Commerce. Can we expand it? We'll discuss it with the board and decide what they wanna do. We'll decide, well, whoever we gotta discuss it with. But that'll be happening over the next, the first tower is not scheduled to be painted until spring of 2019. So we've got 7 months here to work on.
Right.
It's only gonna be a one-page landing
If any-
site.
Right.
It really is only gonna be one page.
And
You're
if this-
talking a landing page, not a website,
yeah.
not a
Not a
full-on
website, it's a
website.
landing
We have our
page.
websites.
And that's
This
what it is, it's a
landing page
hub,
and
like an
hotline.
airport being a hub. It's a place you go, by seeing Explore Heartland all over the place, and I'm being honest with you, everybody in this room, or almost everybody, would probably think, who in their right mind would think that, not know that they're allowed to come to a meeting? You know how many people have said to me, can I come to the meeting? Yeah, it's an open meeting. Are you serious? I can? We assume that they know, but they don't know. I've had people email and say, how do I find this ordinance? Because it's really difficult for them. Our ordinance are real easy. Government, go to the agenda, you can get to the ordinance. It's very simple once you're used to doing it, but it gets more difficult for people where this is a one-stop hub that you'll click and it's gonna route you to wherever, including the chamber, the
I'll tell
village.
you where the satisfaction will come
I
in.
got a subject here. We just came here to vote on the water tower paint.
That's what I'm saying, we're getting involved.
Yeah, we're getting into the whole thing.
Let's,
It's not gonna cost the village any extra money. I think it's a great idea.
Now, let me ask you again, I thought it was too. Is this what we want on when Ann came in with that? I thought she wanted Heartland Chamber underneath this.
Oh, no,
And all that, because we wanted it painted.
Oh,
no.
well, I never heard of that. I mean, we just wanted,
Ann just said, well, we should advertise.
On the,
the
And I
bid,
thought, you
the
know,
bid just looked at this as, I hate to use the word billboard, because
This
people
is a
don't
good
like the word
idea.
billboard, but let's face it, these are huge, they're up there, and it's gonna take you to a website if you wanna go to it, and there you're gonna get all this information about Heartland. That's what it's all
Well, this is a good
about.
idea, I just wanted to know what we're voting.
You're voting on what you see right here, Dick.
Yeah,
That's what you're
I
voting on.
figured when I came down.
Now, we'll work with the planning of the layout of the design, all that, which is gonna be pretty simple. It's gonna be one page. But you are voting on this, which does not cost the village any additional money. And I think the bid did a heck of a job of getting it done for within the cost price, and we got a little extra in this thing.
sides or one side?
I think it's on, is it on both, is there two sides? Yeah, it'll be on both sides.
Okay.
Okay?
You know, when you
By the
came
way-
down here, years ago, everybody wanted a Heartland there. That almost went on, Heartland was in.
Dick, do you remember back in 1952, I think it was, there was a billboard on Merton Avenue and that, a big billboard that
Right,
said,
our history
"Turn
is
right
wonderful in
500
Heartland, but
feet
we
here
don't
to
wanna make
Village of
too much
Heartland."
history tonight, so. So, you're keeping us from the cake. So, with that, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor of the website, the design on the water tower painting, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda that was referred from the Plan Commission is consideration of actions related to modifications to the conditional use permit for operations at 700 West Capitol Drive for Lafarge Aggregates, Mire Material Company, and Ozinga Ready Mix Concrete, Inc. So the first one here being a consideration of a motion to approve amendments to the conditional use permit issued for Lafarge Aggregate and Mire Material Company related to temporary crushing activities and other activities. I'm not sure if each one of you has read those. What this does is it lists out their hours of operation for doing the crushing. Lafarge is going to be doing the crushing. That doesn't start until, that conditional use permit does not allow any activity until 7 a.m. Is someone here to speak on this? Go ahead. Thank you. These are two different conditional
I
use.
will try to be brief, because I know cake is
Yes,
between me and the door here.
yeah.
Randy Willie from Lafarge Aggregates, Mire Material. I'm the Regional Manager of Land and Environmental Services. And I'm here with a gentleman, I don't know Eric's last name, but he's from Ozinga Ready Mix, and he can answer questions on the Ozinga side of it.
Yep.
But Mire Material bought the Two's property many years ago off of Capitol Drive. So there's about a 45-acre site. Most of the activities are confined to right off the street. And we're seeking the temporary use permit to crush up the old concrete that has been left over since the early 90s, when Two's was there, and then Lafarge, and then Mire. And in a way to enhance the future value of that property, we're going to bring a portable crushing plant in. And while business is good, we're going to resell recycled aggregate out of there. As part of the second request, Ozinga Ready Mix leases the ground from us, and they operate the concrete batch plant there. And they were looking for some expanded hours of operation. As times change, they need a couple earlier starts on certain days. There are certain projects in the area that need to run early or run late, and that's the general purpose of these two requests.
How
But
did you check that to see what you're gonna crush? just for, I worked there for 20 years.
Oh, did you?
And you'd be surprised what's buried underneath.
Well,
there.
that's why we've asked for until May 31st of 2019.
They're gonna find what's in there.
We're gonna find what's in there and hammer away at it.
You name it, it's in there.
Can you touch on the hours you plan to operate based on the CUP and what
Yeah,
we put in there?
the crushing permit is 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Fridays, not on Saturdays. We'll be able to load out products 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. along with the ready mix operations,
Yep.
which typically would run 6 to 9.
Because they're both separate, can you focus just on the crushing?
Oh, just on
At
the
what time
crushing.
will you start crushing?
7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
I just wanted to make
That's-
sure, because there's two of them and people are,
Okay.
there was some calls I feel that where
Okay.
people were getting confused saying 4 a.m. they're gonna crush. And
No,
I was
no.
like, oh, I guess.
No.
So just
7
the
a.m.
crushing portion starts at 7, I believe. What time is it?
7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah, 4
Monday
o'clock.
through
Okay.
Friday.
All right, so that's
Okay.
just for the crushing. And with that, I think that we can take these both together. We'll take them one at a time. So does anyone want to make a motion on the crushing CUP, conditional use permit? Anybody want to speak to this? That's coming, that's the next one that we're going to get to.
No, Monday through Friday.
I make a motion to approve crushing start at 7 a.m.
No second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the conditional use permit for Lafarge and doing the crushing?
Yes.
Correct? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Good luck.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, that is granted. Thank you, thank you. And if Ozinga wants to step forward and just touch on, this will be real quick. Just touch on your operating hours and what's different from you crushing, or from them crushing and what you're actually doing starting at 4 a.m.
It's basically just renewing the permit.
It's the activity
It's
that
the
you're already
same
doing now
hours.
currently.
It's just renewing the permit.
So trucks going in and out of there, I just want to make sure everybody's aware, because there was only two of us up here that were at the Plan Commission meeting. What they're doing, the operation that Ozinga's running, they're already running. They're already running trucks in and out of there to get, concrete loaded into trucks and stuff like that. They run them out to Highway 83. The only thing new was more so the crushing and that sort of thing. So,
Well, then why do we need a new conditional use permit?
because they're doing.
It's
they're
a
doing,
renewal?
Huh? Well, no, it's not.
Renewal of an
It is a renewal?
Yeah, I think it expired, correct?
No. The hours.
The
were
hours of
changed.
operation
Yeah.
changed.
What are
Because
the
when we
new
started
hours?
talking about the temporary use permit, there was a discussion about hours, and I went back to Ozinga and said, do you know that the restriction is currently 6 a.m., and they wanted to operate earlier than
Exactly.
that if they needed to.
Yep.
So what you're voting on is the 4 a.m. to 9
4
p.m.
a.m. is
hours
for the ready
that.
mix, the crushing will
So
not start.
sometimes for like DOT jobs and stuff, you have to run at night. It's more safer for the public and stuff like that. There have been no noise complaints or anything like that.
Yep.
There's no residential houses on the way to 16, so.
Yep. Any other questions for them?
Make a motion, we approve the conditional use permit.
I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone want to speak?
Well, you could still
Yeah, we
speak.
will. Go ahead with the motion.
Yeah. I mean, I
Motion's been
second it.
made. Motion's been seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion from the public? Can you state your name and address, please, for the, you can come forward so you can get to the microphone and all that.
My name is Kim Hernandez, and I actually live in the apartments that are right next to where you guys are. And
What's the address, Kim, if you don't mind? just for the-
4850 Easy Street.
Thank you.
And so my question is, what is it that you will be doing that's expanding into the early morning hours?
Just
4 a.m.?
loading trucks and driving them out to 16, the same thing we do right now.
Just loading trucks? And, so, yeah, that was my concern.
Yeah, it's
was-
just the same thing
And
that
how
we
many
already do.
trucks will be coming in and out?
Early morning, usually, we'll hardly ever use it. Usually we never run it before 6 o'clock anyways. It would just be for special projects like DOT work and stuff like that, and we would never have more than 7 trucks in the yard at a time, so.
Never more than 7. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
This is a conditional use permit, right?
That's correct.
If there was to be issues down the road, the residents could step up.
That's correct. And it's listed in the CUP. Board? It's been moved and seconded. There doesn't seem to be any more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That CUP is also granted. Thank you, guys.
Have fun.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve site and landscaping plans for a parking lot expansion for ABC Supply at 550 South Industrial Drive.
Oh, the other cars, I dumped them in there.
Also move that we approve the change in the parking lot.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the expansion of the parking lot over there at ABC at 550 South Industrial. Anybody from the public? Sorry. Anybody want to speak on discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item on the agenda we have is consideration of actions and items related to the Glen at Overlook Trails, formerly the North 40, a condominium development on the property located at and adjacent to N56W28628 County Highway K, also known as Lisbon Road. First, we have review of, I want to touch on what we're really doing here. Review of annexation, zoning of the property, planned unit development overlay, and preliminary plat. So simply keep in mind the first word there is review. Along with that, we then will have the consideration, and this is the only thing that takes action. We're not voting on this. It's simply whether or not we set the public hearing regarding those items. So there's no other action to be taken at this time other than, and there's nothing that's been presented to us because the rest of that was tabled at Plan Commission for further answers and things like that. So this is just to set the public hearing.
I have one question.
Sure.
I was okay with, at the plan commission, and then by the end of the meeting, things got changed. And so, like the road reservation in place of the emergency road, that is not anything that we're voting on now or putting in, is that gonna be
Which
open in the
road?
public? The one going into Mary Hill?
No, that, number one, it wasn't shown on the drawings.
Correct, but
There was
by
some
the-
members of the Plan Commission that brought it up, and then it got tabled. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Jack Wenstrom that said, and he made the motion, and then it was seconded that said, we've got to table this because that's new information coming forward, because there was some members of the board that said they wanted a road there. So we're not we're not deciding that now. That's going to be discussed again at the Plan Commission.
So there is no road reservation that we're discussing? We're just putting this out to the public hearing and then we can discuss it?
We're putting this out for public hearing with the anticipation that what's happening at the Plan Commission is that in some way, shape, or form it's moving forward, but we are simply setting the public hearing. Now, that doesn't mean we have to, I'm saying that's what's on the agenda, is to, that's,
wanna
the
make
Plan
sure-
Commission has referred to us to set the public hearing and no other
And the
action.
public hearing then is where we can
Make
debate
your
this?
comments, that's what the.
Correct,
public hearing-
or anybody can show up at the Plan Commission meeting, okay, which is on every third Monday, of the month at 7 PM in this building, in this room.
It's just that some stuff snuck in there that I wasn't happy with.
Which
so I wanna make
stuff?
sure- Well.
On here or? yeah,
At the
on-
meeting, at the
Oh,
Plan
okay,
Commission.
right,
So I
yeah,
just wanna
no,
make sure.
that was
Okay.
all tabled.
Okay.
Everything was tabled, other
Okay.
than sending it to the
Okay.
village
I just wanna
board
make sure.
to set the public hearing.
The public hearing is when you wanted to come down and make your comment.
Thank you, Dick.
Because if you don't, they pass it.
I
then
make a
it's
motion
gone.
that we set the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the public hearing for October 22nd at 7 PM, or at the meeting that's scheduled for October 22nd at 7 PM. That's the third Monday in October. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
It's the fourth
That public
Monday.
hearing is set. Huh?
Fourth Monday, not the third. Fourth Monday.
I'm sorry, it's the 4th. I'm sorry, because the public hearing will be at the village board meeting. My apologies. It can't be.
Our meetings are on the second and fourth Monday.
The 22nd is not the 4th Monday.
It
Yes,
is.
it is.
Is it really?
First is a Monday, so it's.
The
I
first
should have said
Monday
no.
is the
I'm
first.
sorry.
The first.
Whoops. Okay.
We've got calendars.
All right. I didn't. I screwed up. All right. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve an agreement with the Humane Animal Welfare Society, which is known as HAWS, H-A-W-S, of Waukesha County for stray and injured animal care for the years 2019 through 2021 in the annual amount of $2,772 for each year of the agreement. Does anybody? Has anybody?
I make a motion that we approve this re-agreement. It's just been so successful in the past.
I
I
second.
second.
It's been moved and seconded to continue this agreement. Would anybody like to,
Did they pick up chipmunks?
I do.
you would have to contact them.
I do have a concern with this, and I used to support them. I will not support them anymore. when it says all animals received by Haws from the municipality shall be provided with shelter, food, water, and necessary health care services in accordance with state laws. I don't know, I didn't look up the state laws, but personal experience, they did receive one of my animals, and they never took care of it. They didn't give it water, they didn't do anything. I had to have it euthanized after I paid all their fees. Within 6 hours, I had to have it put down, and they didn't do anything with it, and they had it for a week. And so I have real issues with that. I don't see, it just is something I won't forget that they did. And like I said, I used to donate quite a bit to my dad's estate and stuff, but not anymore.
Okay.
Because they did not follow their own rules.
All right, well,
But they pick up the animals now if you don't approve, if you don't want them.
There was somebody from Bristol Cone Pines that actually took the animal in after I'd been looking for it for a month.
No, but I just mean, we used to have them down at the village all down in the garage, and we couldn't handle them.
Well, I asked them, and they did not care for it at all. They just put it in a cage.
Well,
can we,
then
when you guys are
gotta
ready,
vote
let me know. 'cause
I'm
I
sorry,
wanna let
Dave, go
them
ahead.
No, no worries. Dave Dean, 407 East Capitol. I adopted a dog from the Haws in January. It cost me about $1,200. My dog recently escaped my yard and was taken to Haws immediately. Instead of being put in our kennel that we have at the DPW, it was taken, which is no fault of the police. But and then it cost me another $130 to get him back. Well, dogs do unfortunately get out of their yard once in a while. And if we're not going to utilize our facility that we have here, then let's get rid of it. But there should be a 12-hour period or some type of a period that the homeowner, it gets taken to the police department and you can come and check. Hey, I mean, we don't send, you lose a wallet, you hang on to it. Hang on to the animal for 5 hours or 8 hours or some reasonable amount of time for the homeowner to come and get it. But yeah, I wasn't happy going in and paying $125 to get the damn dog back. I told them they could keep it. No.
I thought we
have a
did
kennel.
away with that.
We have a kennel, and, maybe, and that's, again, no fault to the PD, they're doing great, but, I didn't even have an opportunity to claim it. It went right to the dang Haws, and, anyway, that's my 2 cents. Put in there, we keep it for 8 hours or something before it goes, but then that's another thing the PD has to deal with, but, all right, I'm done.
Well, thank you for your input. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded on whether we want to continue this agreement for our animals that end up getting found. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I said aye.
Oh, that motion is carried. I was leaving it open.
There
yet.
really is no other option for us at this point.
No, I know, and that's why I'm.
I just want to make the comment because I will not support them other. But for Heartland, I think it's better, not for me
Yep.
personally, but for Heartland.
Yep.
Gotta put,
No,
I'm putting them
no.
first
I
before
was
my.
just making sure, just.
Oh, yeah, no.
So with that, we now have announcements, and there was a lot going on, there still is a lot going on, and, all right.
Separate those two. You two.
No, it's the person in front of you, just getting everything going. All right, so, there is a lot going on in the village. I am gonna use this announcement time simply to say, there has been some events, recently, all kinds of different events within the village that have just been, really good for the village of Heartland, going all the way back to the 10 event. The fire department just, did a burn, which I unfortunately missed, due to some severe situations, but, none of my own, but helping others. But they did, it was on Channel 4. I don't know if people saw it. It was really cool. I know some trustees probably could speak to it better than I because they were there. There's a lot of good things going on in Heartland as we sit up here and we talk about things that maybe we did wrong in the past and maybe we didn't do and maybe we need to do in the future. I think that people are communicating more now than I've seen in quite some time. I think there's a lot more people sitting in the chairs and coming and listening, and even people calling and emailing their elected officials, and I just want to say that that's a testament to every single person up here and this village and in where we're going. Everybody's working together. It takes a lot of different people to make all this happen, and I think that that's happening. We're moving in that direction for the common good, and each day trying to be a more perfect Heartland. So I'm very proud today with some of the things that we've enacted that I'm sitting here. So thank you all.
I just want to say thank you very much to our fire department also, and Dave Dean and everybody involved. Incredible experience, just incredible. The professionalism of our fire department, watching how you guys ran that and directing all the different fire departments that were there. The way it was performed was flawless. I can't say enough. Just outstanding. Kudos to you guys.
I too give a kudos. I also had the privilege and honor, I actually think, to go into that burning building, burning house and see exactly how it's done. And I mean, hats off. I thought I was going to die at one point. Just because I couldn't breathe. That mask is really scary when you put it on. But it was just, it's amazing. And what they do, and this was a clear room that it was, all the smoke that was in there, absolutely clear. I cannot imagine being in a situation like that with furniture and trying to, all the other obstacles that they go through when they go into a burning house to save us. So kudos to all of you and what you do.
Thank you for the great compliments. It was nice to have everybody out there, and when we do it again, we'll invite everyone as well. And but it's again, I've always said, and I will continue to say I'm very fortunate to have an outstanding staff and a group of volunteers that are willing to give up their time to dedicate and commit to the community. So, as I've said before, I only steer the ship; they do the rowing. Thanks for the compliments. Hats off to my members and personnel.
Absolutely, thank you guys.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll put that on the tower.
What is it?
Any other announcements?
If I could.
Absolutely, sir.
$10 first, please.
Over the weekend, Heartland DPW had 2 water main breaks, Saturday and Sunday, and I want to commend all the laborers that worked both of those days. They were long hours. They did a great job. They were professional. The teamwork was outstanding, and I think they deserve to be recognized for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Where were those?
And thanks to them. Appreciate it.
Willow
Yeah.
Drive,
Okay.
both of them on Willow. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you, Mike.
Thanks,
And
Mike.
please pass our own thanks on to them for that hard work.
Yes.
Any other comments or announcements, I mean? Well, the entertainment is on the floor for that next step.
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. This meeting's adjourned.